Huge test for you this week, Matthew. Big question. Is the election going to be fair?
The election will be fair. We have good people running our elections. The people who are actually interacting with voters at the state and local level, they know what they're doing. For the most part, these are not partisan officials. They are doing these jobs in a nonpartisan way. They're going to do everything in accordance with state, federal, and local law, and they'll get us our results. I think just we all have to remember to be a little bit calm, wait on election night. We may have a day or two to wait, but I do think we're going to have results fairly quickly, and I think people will be surprised about that.
Fairly quickly? Really? I mean, how many days do you think, let's say, worst case scenarios, the counting could actually take?
Look, if it's close in any one of these swing states and this becomes a long drawn out recount, that'll be the exception, not the rule. I mean, if you look at a state like Florida, Florida's already counting their absentee ballots. By 8 p.m. Eastern time on election night, Florida is going to release most of its absentee ballots and an early voting results. So we're going to know a huge portion of a huge swing state. That's the case in many states. However, there are some states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, where their laws don't let them start counting those absentee ballots until the day before election day or on election day itself. Those states, they're going to be working through the night. They're not going to sleep on election night. And so they will put these ballots through the high-speed scanners and they'll get it done. So I expect even in those states that can't start until election day, more likely than not, we'll have pretty good results by Wednesday night or Thursday.
Now, we've seen record numbers of early voters. How does that change the counting process?
Well, it's true. I mean, in the 2016 election, about 40% of the electorate voted early. And by any metric for turnout this year, more than half have already voted early, more than half of what we were expecting to see total. It does change the calculations for election night returns. Absentee ballots, they come in throughout the 2 or 3 weeks before election day. In many states, they can process it. They can do the signature verification to make sure that only eligible voters are submitting ballots. They can sort those ballots by ballot style. And in some states, they can actually put those ballots through tabulators and get ready for counting. Early votes are just like votes cast at polling places on election day. In most cases, voters are putting those ballots directly into ballot scanners. And so we just have to wait to run those reports on election day to get those results pretty quickly. The real distinction is between which states can start that process right now and which states are waiting to start the process because their laws just don't allow them to do so.
Let's talk about the evolution of election technology, because here in Silicon Valley, we're covering the most innovative technology companies in the world. It seems that technology is moving at lightning speed, but when it comes to voting technology, it has moved at a snail's pace. What is the state of voting technology for the 2020 election? And then we'll get to the potential.
So we've come a long way. So it's not that long ago, 20 years, that we had the famous or infamous butterfly ballot in Florida. We don't have those anymore. We don't have the lever voting machines that people remember from their youth. After that, we passed the Help America Vote Act of 2002, and we rushed into touchscreen voting. And I think that was probably a failed experiment, because what we learned was it was risky. If we just vote on touchscreens, we don't have a paper record of what happened, so you can't recount anything. And in an age where we're very concerned about foreign interference in our elections, not having a paper record is problematic. So most voters this year will be voting on a paper-based system. That's been the trend for a couple of years now, and at this point, I think voters for the future should expect to vote by paper going forward, and that's going to limit options for innovation through tech.
What about things like mobile voting? I mean, is that ever a possibility, or would that undermine the integrity of the results?
I think there are a lot of concerns with mobile voting, and I share those concerns. Again, we are just one election past, a confirmed attack on our voting processes by a foreign adversary. We know from what the DNI and the FBI director said at a conference last week that Russia, China, Iran are still trying to interfere with our elections. And so I do think there's a lot of concern about not having some sort of paper backup to the voting tech process. I will say, though, that states have the option to try to innovate. And for our military voters overseas, they have their ballots transmitted to them in some cases electronically. In some cases, they can return those electronically. Some states allow that for voters with disabilities. They can get their domestic absentee ballot electronically. They can mark it with a special device and then print it out and send it back. So I think there are some innovations, but a fully online mobile voting option is probably not going to happen anytime soon.